Okay, well, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. The citizens in the state of Illinois, if they're tuned in, and a lot are, they understand that we are in a fiscal crisis in the state. But there's another crisis out there, a crisis of corruption that sometimes gets overlooked. We currently have two former governors who are serving time in the Department of Corrections for crimes that they committed while performing the duties of their elected office. And as well, we're seeing that the federal government is investigating currently one of our seated legislators. Illinois government's a corrupt government, and we need to do something to change that. We need to find out what's working and what's not working. And what's not working is this whole concept of a career politician. So that's why I'm out here today proposing that my thoughts are we need term limits in the state of Illinois. And the term limits that I would propose would be a 10-year service for each house, the state Senate and the House of Representatives for the state of Illinois. 37 out of 50 states have some form of term limits on their books for their elected officials. Our neighbors to the west, the state of Missouri, voted for term limits 20 years ago. They voted an 8-year term limit for their legislators. They were re-asked 10 years later, say, are you really sure you want that? 75% of the voters turned out and said, yes, that's exactly what we want. I think it's time that Illinois voters had that same option. Let the legislators give them the option to vote on whether or not term limits is a good thing for the state of Illinois. Now, Chicago, one of the largest cities and one of the top 10 largest cities in the United States of America, is the only one that I know of that doesn't have term restrictions on its mayor. That sort of buys into the concept of corrupt Chicago politicians, corrupt Chicago policy. And that's all right for them, but it gets exported into Springfield, Illinois, and it affects West Central Illinois. And that's where I have a problem with it. Now, the state's messed up. The city of Chicago is messed up, and they're exporting it to us. And what we're seeing is, I think, a lazy way for lobbyists and special interest groups to act. They like to pad the pockets of those career politicians so they can just keep going back to them for their special favors each and every time. If you want to see a good example of that, just simply look at my opponent's campaign fund. It is lined with lobby money and special interest money from outside of this district. I want to go to Springfield to represent the people of this district, not some lobby group or not some special interest group from outside of here. And that's what I propose to do when I get to Springfield, Illinois. Now, we put a package together here that says these legislators, these career politicians, have become a little bit what I would call fat cats, and we need to put them on a diet. They like your tax dollars a little bit too much. And so I have proposed, let's freeze their salaries and their benefits until they get this fiscal crisis straightened out. Let's put an end to this lucrative pension program that legislators get involved with. Let's shine the light of transparency on the work that they do, and let's put term limits on them so that we don't have those career politicians. I'm happy today to be joined by Andrzejewski, who I believe espouses some of these same feelings about the corruption in the state of Illinois. Adam, do you have a comment?
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy to be here on behalf of Randy. Thank you, Randy, for leading on calling for bold reform policy to go after corruption in Illinois. On the way here, I just read our poll numbers. They came out of a national polling firm out of Washington, D.C. And 94% of people here in Illinois think that when government spends money, that waste, mismanagement, and corruption of their tax dollar is involved. 3/4 of those people said it was a big problem, and 17% of those people said it was a problem. Only 1% of the people thought it was not a problem at all. So Randy is leading on bold transformational policy to bring a new day to Illinois, specific to the constitutional amendment of term limits. Here's the problem in Illinois. Over the course of the past 10 years, while Illinois has careened toward insolvency, 90% of the incumbents in Springfield have won re-election because they're in gerrymandered districts specially drawn for their re-election. Here's the solution. 10 years in the state legislature, and Randy Frese is leading on this policy. So in order to bring a new day to Illinois, I think it's self-evident we need new people. A specific example of why it's so important is right here in this district, with the 10-year incumbent State Senator John Sullivan. John Sullivan sits as chairman of the Budget Committee, and over the course of his tenure on that committee, Illinois has had 8 credit downgrades. With the biggest problems in Illinois being public corruption, John Sullivan gets his money out of the city of Chicago, and the other problem in Illinois is too much spending, and John Sullivan's the tip of the spear. Term limits would solve both problems. Thank you, Randy, for leading on this transformational policy.
Thank you.